All right. Now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Soul of the SKOL. After I promised we'd have a lot of people on tonight, we have 2, but better than 0 or 1, so that's okay. Here we are to recap the Minnesota Vikings' first day of free agency, unofficial free agency, even though it is. But, I mean, this is like if you're a football fan, this is like one of the best days of the whole year, is the day this happens. Just players going off the board left and right, speculation, and then reality and whatnot. So was excited to wake up this morning and have this happen. Almost fell asleep in class this morning, but I think it's because I was thinking about how excited the rest of the day was going to be. And yeah, that's just kind of how it goes. But quite the day for the Vikings. Vikings, 2 former players signed elsewhere. The Vikings signed 2 of their players to new deals, so those are official already. Vikings signed 3 outside players, or agreed to terms. Can't sign them till Wednesday. Pretty much the same difference, but whatever. So pretty much like we do kind of a post-game show, we can just give our initial thoughts. My initial thought is, in my opinion, Kwesi Cook today. I thought he did a wonderful job.
Yeah, I thought he did a phenomenal job. I mean, I'm so sick of Vikings Twitter at this point. Like, I'm just ready to be done looking at it. But, there was the highs, the lows. I mean, overall, I think Kwesi had a phenomenal day, and I think he's just going to continue to do that. I mean, obviously, sad to see Kirk go, one of my favorite Vikings ever, if not my favorite. But, like, the Vikings were never going to do 4 years. They were never going to do 180 million. And, I think that's just outside of what even I would have taken as someone who is one of the biggest Kirk supporters out there. So obviously we wish him nothing but the best in Atlanta, and hopefully can bring him on a deep playoff run. But I mean, stuff like this happens. The NFL is a business, and now the Vikings are kind of in a scary but exciting time at that position. So looking like a bridge quarterback, and hopefully probably trading up. I mean, honestly, at this point.
So yeah, I mean, the Vikings haven't been in this position in years now, because
Long time.
Well, the last time they had it was 2018, but I mean, they had no, that still counts. They had a solidified Case Keenum was not solidified, I should say. A quarterback that was good the previous year. I mean, Kirk's been good for years now, and they were willing to move off that in what I'm going to stand by. Ultimately, on last week's podcast, we just talked about overall, was the Kirk Cousins experience with the Vikings a success? Some people say yes. I said parts of it were, but the overall goal of it, I guess, really didn't hit, but that's all right. But if I went back to 2018, I still would have done it over again. Yeah. I still would have done the same thing. I think they made the right choice, even if it didn't necessarily work out. We got some comments here. We're going to go through we got a lot of stuff to get to now that it's been quite the day. So we got lots of good, fun stuff we are about to get to here. Also, I'm wearing my Kirk jersey right here. He's got his on. I've got my Kirk Cousins shirt underneath it. I don't know if I've ever worn this on here before. Maybe I have. But yeah, there he is, Kirko. I wore that out to eat supper tonight. People probably thought I was weird, but
I wore this to work and out in public. So
yeah. So with that said, I guess the first kind of big major deal is obviously Kirk Cousins has agreed to terms, hasn't officially signed till Wednesday, but he has agreed to a deal with the Falcons, and it's 4 years, 180. Is it 180? Or is that a different deal I'm thinking of?
That's 180. Yeah, you're right. 4 years, 180.
4 years, $180 million. There's $100 million guaranteed. The 90 of that is over the first 2 years, which would be 24 and 25, which would mean those 2 years are fully guaranteed. He also has $10 million guaranteed in 26 as well, which isn't much, but more than zero. So whatever. But if you ask me, and I mean, I think you're going to agree with me too, but I absolutely respect Kwesi's decision to draw a line in the sand, not budge, and say, if you don't want to come back on our terms, we're ready to move on. And that's what he did today. And I couldn't praise him enough for that. I thought he did wonderful.
And I mean, I think, the Vikings drew a line. Kwesi, I think that probably was around $40 million a year-ish for 1 year, maybe two. Maybe Kwesi haggled a little bit, but I think overall, once, he wanted more than that, and I think, what is it, 45 million AAV at
Yeah.
this point? So I think that was just too much for the Vikings, and, I had a hard time seeing them go 2 years, let alone 4. I mean, so it sucks to lose a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's been your franchise guy for 6 years now. A lot of good memories, a lot of bad memories, and part of me would have loved to see Kirk come back and us kind of give it one more go at this thing while we still have him. But I mean, I think overall this was the right move for the Vikings, and moving forward, it just opens up a whole lot more possibilities for this team.
Yeah, I think this could, obviously it probably will benefit the Falcons here, but I think just the change of scenery might benefit Kirk too. When he was brought in 2018, the Vikings had almost made it all the way to the Super Bowl the year before, and they brought in Kirk because he was kind of the missing piece to take him there. And ultimately it never really worked out. But I think this isn't exactly an apples to apples situation, but in a way, this almost could work for the Falcons too. Kind of like that. They have a lot of weapons, and they have a good roster if you look around. And Kirk could be the piece that takes them to a deep run in the playoffs. Maybe not a Super Bowl this year, but he could do that, I think. And so, yeah, even though sometimes I say, sometimes I portray myself as a Kirk hater. Really, I don't think I'm that way. It's just, to me, Kirk works under special circumstances, and the Vikings had those circumstances, but the time is kind of up now. He's not a quarterback that's going to face adversity and carry your team. He goes with a team, and that's what I don't think the Vikings had anymore, is a team that he would have to carry them, but I don't think that he's willing to do that. But I think, it'll be good on all parts to everyone to start over. Yeah, I'm not saying he's a bad player at all, because he's a great player. We saw for, 6 years here. He is potentially the second best quarterback in this franchise's 60-year history now.
I think he is. Yeah, I think it's safe to say that now. And something that I think we took for granted with him was he provided QB stability that we didn't have for a very, very long time. Pretty much, I don't even remember, but he was the first guy. We had Brett Favre, obviously, who started for a year, but he was old and going to retire anyway. So I don't remember the last time the Vikings have had a guy start for 6 years. So he provided stability, and he did get overhated at times, I think, a lot. But, in the end, obviously, it's time to move on.
Yeah, pre-Case Keenum, they had Teddy Bridgewater before that, and that was its own thing. Then the injury happened, and he was never the same after that again. Before Teddy Bridgewater, it was just kind of a rotating carousel of quarterbacks, and they were never able to find someone consistent. Every year or two, it was just someone new, until Kirk came along, and he became a stabilizing piece. But, like we've said, and like I've said, I respect the Vikings for seeing that in order to win a championship, which is ultimately my goal on here, is I want to see him win a championship. And to me, the Vikings winning a championship involves pushing forward to build your team to the next step. So it's not necessarily Kirk's fault that they never were able to do that, but it's all right. So yeah, I think we both would say that we would probably wouldn't agree to the deal that the Falcons did, the 4 years.
Oh yeah, no.
Whatever 180 we just said it was. Personally, my boundary, I wasn't going to go over 2 years. Even 2 years to me was still stretching it a bit, just because of the vision in mind of having a young quarterback, and this year's plentiful, next year not very plentiful. So I wouldn't have gone over that, and I wouldn't have gone over 35 million, which I figured Kirk wasn't going to settle for really either of those. So really wasn't going to work out. But yeah, I would not have agreed to those terms. So I thank Kwesi for not budging and understanding that. And yeah, so do you think what do we think the Falcons could do this year? Because the last year they had some high and low points, but bad quarterback play was kind of the definition of their season. They had
last year. Last year, their quarterback room was a disaster, and they kind of did this whole thing, maybe Desmond Ritter's the guy, and he wasn't, and then they went out and I think they signed Taylor Heineke, or maybe they had him, but they tried rolling Heineke. Obviously, he played in the Josh Dobbs game, which was one of the highlights of the season. But, I think Kirk in that offense is going to do great. I mean, you got a young generational running back. I think that's going to be in Bijan. You got Kyle Pitts, who's hopefully going to get utilized now that Arthur Smith is gone, and Raheem Morris is going to come in and hopefully get his staff around him. So, there is the team around Kirk. I don't think this is like a Super Bowl team, but I think this is definitely a team that can take advantage of the weaker division they're in now. The Bucs are probably going to be, well, I think hopefully the Bucs are good again with Baker and re-signing all those guys. But after that, I think, it's not that hard of a division to win. We saw the Bucs win at 8-9. So, Kirk wins 10 games with this team which he absolutely can do. I think they can get into the playoffs and maybe even make some noise. And I'd love to see that, honestly, out of Falcons, unless we obviously have to play them. But
that's going to be quite the game, though. Kirk Cousins back at US Bank Stadium, probably in prime time, because it's going to catch all the headlines, and it's just going to be a crazy game, especially if it's a rookie quarterback, the Kirk predecessor against Kirk himself. Also got this lovely comment. Sam Bradford, the GOAT, bring him back. He's got to be 47 years old by now.
Yeah,
how old is Sam Bradford?
He's probably
he's only 36. No way.
He's got to be glass at this point, though.
I think they retired, but let's see. Let's see who he played with last.
He was on I feel like he bounced around some practice squads or something.
The last time he played was. He played with the Vikings. He was signed in he was traded in 2016 after the Teddy Bridgewater injury. He was kind of the emergency trade. Played that whole year. 2017, he only played, I think, week 1, if I remember right, because then Case Keenum came in.
Oh, yeah, he played week 1. He lit it up in week 1, too, and then he got injured. And Case Keenum had to come in, and then they actually ended up starting him again in Chicago, but it was a disaster. So they put Keenum in at halftime and ended up winning that game, and they just rode Keenum the rest of the way.
And then it said after the season, so it must have only been a 2-year. He only must have 2 years left on that deal. 2018, he signed a 2-year deal with the Arizona Cardinals.
I remember that deal.
And then it said he was released on November 3rd, 2018. So he only lasted not even a year there before they cut him. And according to his Wikipedia page, I don't know if he's technically retired, but he is at this point. So, he hasn't played on a team in 6 years now. So
I think he might have been on a practice squad or two, or he's the third string guy somewhere, but he hasn't played any legit football in a very long time. But that Sam Bradford year was kind of a whirlwind. We started 5-0, and then 8-8.
I was gonna say they missed the playoffs that year, if I remember right. So now we can kind of look into who are some options they could bring in, because presumably, unless they're dumb, they're gonna draft someone this year. Because
I think
stars line up.
Even if they do draft someone, though, there's going to be a bridge guy coming in. That's just what you do. So worst case scenario, you're starting Sam Darnold or Jacoby Brissett, which wouldn't be fun, but at least you're not. I don't see them, just saying, hey, we're going to roll with Jaron Hall or Nick Mullins.
Yeah. If this was an ideal world, they would have a bridge quarterback. Obviously, they're not going to just not do that, because that would be a recipe for potential disaster. But in an ideal world, that quarterback would start 0 games if they had a rookie ready for week 1. Not saying that's going to happen, because that's in a way, a long shot, but not necessarily if you get the right player. In a perfect world, they would start right away. But we've seen some bridge quarterback options kind of go off the board recently, like Russ last night. He's been talked about a little bit on this podcast, but a lot of Viking fans kind of didn't like the idea. Some did. I did. Matt did. I don't really remember how you felt.
I didn't really feel like it. And I also don't feel like Russ would come in to be a bridge. I think he wants to still be a starter.
Yeah. That's why. So at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because last night he signed a 1-year deal with Pittsburgh. I was a little surprised he signed a 1 year. I said last night in the group chat something about didn't think he'd take less than 3. I was half serious, but also half joking when I said that. But I'm surprised he took less than 2. I didn't think he'd go anything under 2, even if he realized the market was horrible for him because he's not the same anymore. Whatever. So they got, let's think of some other options. Sam Darnold, we've talked about. A lot of Viking fans would cry if they saw the Vikings sign Darnold, but I wouldn't. No. It'd be a Kwesi thing. Same with what's his name? Zach Wilson. Him too. Trey Lance, I'm still intrigued by to this day. I still kind of am.
I think my problem with Trey Lance
there
is I'm pretty sure he has like a $22 million cap hit this upcoming year.
Trey Lance does?
He has, it's something's 22 million. Hold on.
Somebody must have they must have done something with his 5th-year option then. That would, to me, that would make sense. Well, I mean, it doesn't make sense, but in that case it does. Because he was with the Niners. He was drafted in 2021, 3rd overall. And then he was there for 3 seasons. And then he was traded to the Cowboys in 2023 to the Cowboys for a 4th-round pick. And he never got any game action. So Trey Lance has played, in his career, he's played 8 games. He's started 4. He's 2-2 in his starts. He's
okay. I guess I think something must have gotten cut or restructured because his cap number is only $5.3 million right now, and that would also obviously involve a trade because he is under contract with Dallas unless they cut him. Which
if he was only $5 million, I would do that. I don't care that he's been a bust his whole career. I would still do that for $5 million.
I mean, I think there'd be something there, but
yeah.
I mean, Lance. Jacoby Brissett. Now it sounds like the Vikings are really interested in Sam Darnold, and they're just waiting to pull the trigger.
I was just gonna say, even if like Trey Lance, like he obviously hasn't turned it on and put it all together in the NFL, but the way I think about it is he was the 3rd overall pick for a reason. It wasn't just out of the blue it happened. So somebody in the Niners organization, or not just the Niners organization, because pretty much everyone in the league obviously had him as a 1st-round pick and whatnot. So people saw things out of him, and it just he just hasn't been able to put it all together, whether that's on him, whether it's the staffs he's been with, which to me doesn't sound right because he was with Kyle Shanahan and they couldn't work it out. So probably more of the first option, but whatever. He could still work out, I think. Jacoby Brissett's still on the market, at least as far as I've seen. I haven't seen anything about him, so I think he's still there. And
he's still on the market.
Minshew's off the board. Saw that a little bit ago. He went to, where was it? I already forgot. I'm gonna have to look. Where did Minshew go?
I feel like, oh my gosh,
I remember seeing it, but I don't remember.
I swear it was like a blue team. I don't know. That's weird.
Minshew. Oh, he went to the Vegas Raiders.
That's right.
Jimmy G's on the market. Well, actually, he was on the market anyway, but
yeah,
the Vikings. See, I wouldn't be opposed to Jimmy G. He's suspended for 2 games, but like just throw Nick Mullins in for 2 games. It's not like an 8-game suspension. That's how I feel about that.
Maybe. I mean, possibilities are endless. Right now, if I had a prediction, it'd be Darnold, just because it looks like there's steam building on Vikings social media about that.
Jimmy Garoppolo, we're going to pull up some stats on him because people like to poo-poo on him, and he sure has had some bad times, but in his career, he hasn't been horrible either. He's led some good teams. He led the Niners to a Super Bowl. So they had a really good team too, but you don't not just anyone can take their team to the Super Bowl. So he was drafted. Jimmy was he drafted or undrafted? Doesn't really matter. 2nd-round pick, 62nd overall by the Patriots. So he would have been the backup to Tom Brady for 14, 15, 16, 17. So then it looks like must have been after his rookie contract ended, he was traded to the Niners for a 2nd-round pick. How was he traded for a 2nd-round pick if dude didn't even play?
It's
with the Pats.
So he was a backup, and He was the starter during that Brady Deflategate suspension.
Oh.
And I
How long
think
was that
there was a
suspension?
lot of people that liked Jimmy G because I think he played really needed to play. And the Niners were looking for a guy. And I think, it probably helped that he worked with Tom Brady and all that. And I think initially he might have been drafted as Brady's replacement, but obviously Brady went and won a couple more Super Bowls,
Yeah.
and didn't retire for a while. But I think that's what happened, if I remember correctly.
Also, if anyone's watching this that wants to throw in a comment or has a thought, feel free to throw in the comment section and we can talk about anything. So Garoppolo let's just find some stats about him. He's really only been in New England and San Fran and then Vegas last year, and that was kind of everything went wrong in Vegas though, so that wasn't really just his problem. Yeah. In his career, he is 43-20. He has completed 67% of his passes he's had 94 touchdowns, 51 interceptions. He's got a career passer rating of 97.6. Like, people, I would support Jimmy G personally because, again, he's not been great, but he's not going to wreck your team.
Yeah.
He's been all right in his career, so
yeah.
I don't always agree with all the hate he gets, but that's okay. Thoughts on releasing Madison? We might have talked a little about this the last week, but whatever. We all kind of agreed it was a pretty good decision.
Yeah.
At the time, the Madison deal seemed like a bargain, but looking back, that did not go well.
I thought Madison in a backup role when he was behind Dalvin Cook I thought it was a phenomenal backup, but it just didn't work out, and the Vikings had to go in a different direction. And does Madison deserve all the hate he's getting? Absolutely not. That's something I just hate seeing him get. And, it happened to him all season. But, this team's just going in a different direction. I'm sure he'll get on somewhere and hopefully get a fresh start. But, I think in the end it was better for both the Vikings and Madison. And now we're still looking for a running back. A lot of the big running backs are off the board. But, maybe in wave 2 or wave 3 of free agency, we go grab one, or maybe we grab Blake Corum in the draft or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Jimmy G, that's who I was taught. I think that's what I was thinking about when I was talking about Trey Lance, because
the cap hit. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, his cap number for next year is $28 million.
Oh yeah,
it's
weird.
Steep.
That's weird.
Yeah.
I wonder why would they do that? Yeah, that is weird. How
much is that?
Let's see. If they cut him, how would that?
They'd eat $17 million.
If it was
if they cut him pre-June 1st.
Yeah, they would eat 17 and save 11.
11, yep.
And if they cut him, the Vikings could sign him for whatever they wanted to sign him for. If they traded him, obviously, and the Vikings would have to deal with.
I don't think they'd trade him.
Whatever.
I don't know if he's going to get cut. I don't know if he's going to get cut. That'd be quite the competition, though. Aiden O'Connell, Jimmy Garoppolo, and Gardner Minshew.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever talked about it on here. I talked about it a little in the one I filmed earlier today. Do you think that? How do you feel about Justin Fields? Because to me, that's automatically a no. I'm out on Justin Fields.
No, I'm out on him.
It's not him as a player, because he's a pretty good player. He's an athletic quarterback. He's kind of what the Vikings almost dream of in a way. He's a little bit to the extreme.
Yeah.
But he's more of what Vikings fans want to see. But I think it's more of the fact that, he's got 2 years of cheap, and then someone's going to have to pay him. And I don't want to do that. I just want to start over. So.
No, I don't think Fields is a guy that, Fields isn't a guy you bet your future on. And I think if you're going to bet your future on something, might as well go up and get Jaden Daniels or JJ McCarthy or Drake May or even Michael Penix. I just don't think.
Yeah.
I think there are fans out there that want Fields brought in as like a bridge quarterback, and Justin Fields just isn't gonna. I just don't think Justin Fields is gonna come in and say, "Hey, I'll be a bridge quarterback for 8 games." That's not something he's gonna do. And I don't even think the Bears would trade Justin Fields to us in division. And
yeah,
I mean, who knows? The Bears haven't really said anything about what they're doing. For all we know, they could keep Fields and draft Marvin Harrison at number 1.
Yeah, I talked a little about this during the first one I filmed earlier today. I almost feel a little bit like the Chicago Bears kind of screwed up the Justin Fields trade, because now, like, who wants to trade for him? Like, not really anyone anymore. I feel like they had an opportunity. They could have done it. Sure, maybe they were looking for more than the offers they were getting, but still, they could have gotten, I would say, probably a decent return on him. But I think now they waited too long. And
well, I mean, I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, there's still teams that need quarterbacks.
They
like
could
the
still trade them.
Patriots, the Commanders didn't sign anybody, did they?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I'm sorry. I'm getting all these. It's been a long day. I'm getting all these.
There's players everywhere today, so I don't blame you.
Yeah, but no, there's still a couple teams. I mean, the Falcons obviously filled their void, but I mean, outside of that, there's still teams that can be looking for quarterbacks.
The Raiders can bring them in and just have quarterbacks everywhere, just a mass quarterback.
4 guys, and by the end of when teams needed like QB2s after training camp, when they have a 2022 Viking situation where they realize both their backups are going to be playing in the UFL within the next year. I mean, then you could maybe accumulate a couple draft picks by just dishing them out. And
it's not to say that the Bears aren't going to get anything for him, because they will. A team is going to trade something for him at this point, but I almost feel like they just lost out on the window of a maximum return. Like they just missed. They could have got probably a day 2 pick, I'd say, but maybe they still could, but there was an opportunity to get something big, and they kind of missed it, I think.
For me, it felt like if a deal hadn't gotten done by by the time the tampering, right when the tampering window opened, I think it's going to be like either they're keeping him or they're going to ship him for like a 4th or 5th round pick. So we'll see. That's a big storyline to still watch, because the Bears have the number 1 overall pick.
Oh yeah. So we're talking about quarterbacks, and I'm not a college scout by any means, and you're not either, but you're more of a college scout than I am. So with that said, over the past bit now, I've kind of embraced this mindset, and it's that if you're going to move on from Kirk Cousins and try to find your successor, to me, if you wait till like the 2nd or 3rd round to draft somebody because you're not willing to mortgage the future, to me, that feels like, again, you're kind of setting yourself up for mediocrity. It's not guaranteed you will, because it could work and that would be awesome. But to me, that is almost a little what it feels like. So I just think that if they're going to reset, if they're going to get a new quarterback, go big or go home. Just do it. Just go big or go home at this point.
I mean, I'm in agreement with you. I feel like, if the Vikings brought back Kirk on a 2-year deal, I think it could have easily been a situation where you're in 42, you're in day 2, and you take a shot on like Spencer Rattler, or maybe Bo Nix falls in the 2nd round and you take him. But now I think you're putting yourself in a position where you're kind of where you kind of have to look to get one of those, big 4. There's the big 6, right? But I mean, I think you even have to try to get one of those big 4 guys. And what comes to mind right now is, if everything plays out and the Bears trade Fields and they grab Caleb Williams, and then at 2, the Commanders grab Drake May, I think you have to either look up to trade up to 3, or you have to look to maybe see if maybe McCarthy tumbles a little bit and you just go up and grab him, or maybe you even trade up to 4 and just grab McCarthy at 4. And same thing goes with Jaden Daniels. Maybe at 3, if the Patriots are looking for somebody, maybe they trade for Justin Fields and they're looking for a suitor to trade, or maybe they take Marvin Harrison. Who knows? I mean, there's so many possibilities that can happen on draft night. And draft night's, I think, setting up to be kind of a crazy, crazy time for the Vikings. And
it's
exciting. I mean,
we will probably be live draft night, and it will be a lot of fun. And to what I was saying earlier, I should specify, I'm not saying that if you wait till like the 2nd or 3rd to draft someone, that doesn't mean it's going to fail. Or if you trade into the top 5, that doesn't mean that they're going to hit, because nothing is guaranteed. It's really just about probability.
It's all a risk.
Yeah.
All a risk.
But if you trade up, you're more probable for it to work, but that's not saying it's guaranteed 100%, because nothing is. It's just more likely that player is going to hit than Spencer Rattler, Bo Nix, Penix in the 2nd, something like that. And since you're the resident Michigan fan and a lot of Vikings fans are fearing JJ McCarthy, is there anything you'd like to say about JJ McCarthy to the Viking fans that are curled up in the fetal position because they can't imagine this happening?
Honestly, it gets me excited, man, because JJ's been getting hate. He's been getting hate ever since he stepped foot on Michigan's campus. It's just even before all this stuff came out about Michigan, it's like Michigan's still kind of a universally hated program. And I mean, JJ's been dealing with it all his career. And I mean, I think, yeah, people look at it like, JJ didn't throw the ball much, which he didn't, frankly. I mean, I watched every single snap of Michigan's season this season, and he didn't throw the ball. But I'm just telling you, when he did, there's stuff like he can make throws, and he can thread the needle. He made some phenomenal throws this season, and there are some struggles. Obviously, there's going to be struggles with any rookie quarterback, but he's a great dude, and I think he's a guy that you get in working with Kevin O'Connell and Josh McCown. I mean, he's going to learn a lot. You get him in some preseason games, he's a guy who's just going to grow, and he's got that mentality where he's going to be a team guy. He's going to be a captain. If he sticks around, he's going to be a team captain. I mean, he's always been known as a great leader. I mean, a great character. Like, he's never had a single issue at Michigan or anything like that. He's never been even like supposed to be any sort of cancer in the locker room. He loves his guys. And this season they ran the ball a lot, and JJ didn't care. He didn't care if he got the credit for it. I mean, he said, he said, if we win the national championship, well, none of that matters. And while it might affect his draft stock a little bit, I mean, JJ could have went in and said, hey, I want to throw the ball more. I got Roman Wilson to throw the ball to. I got Colson Loveland. I got these guys. I want to throw them the ball. And they probably would have done it, but he didn't. He didn't care. And I think JJ, you say, I'm a guy that says bet on traits. And JJ has traits, and he has all the traits to be a good NFL quarterback. You go a little deeper, you look at his footwork, you look at some of the throws he makes. I think he's got some throws that he needs to work on. But at the same time, like, that's what gets me excited, because he's not a guy that's kind of like reached his full potential in college. And I think he just has an opportunity to just grow. And you get him working with Josh McCown and Kevin O'Connell, two guys who were backup quarterbacks. And, a lot of times those are the guys who really can work with these guys. And I think part of such a big reason they brought in Josh McCown was because of that. So those are that's my thoughts on JJ.
Yeah, it's nice having, like you just said, McCown and O'Connell, because they both, you can have someone that's an offensive expert in that thinks they know what they're talking about, and that's Miles Reed. Someone that thinks they knows what they're talking about, but like for Kevin and Josh McCown, they were both players, so they've been on the field and seen it with their own eyes. So I think that gives them an advantage in helping someone.
Yeah.
And you said bet on traits, and that was actually really good, that comment here that you said that, because I think a lot of the issue some people I've seen have had is that he didn't throw the ball a whole lot. It seems like in college, that's what people like to say. But I wasn't watching the whole combine, but from kind of what I heard is that the combine is obviously when you get to show off your talents and throw, and it's not exactly like a game, but you just get to show off your raw traits pretty much. And it seemed like, from what I've heard, JJ McCarthy did very well in showing off his arm at the combine. So
yeah, there was some good, there was a little bad from him too. I can admit that, but those deep balls he was hitting were insane. Like, they were like in stride, just perfect placement, perfect touch. Receivers had no issue catching them. And obviously the combine you can kind of take it, a lot of people have differing opinions, and I mean, but people wanted to see him throw, and he threw, and I thought he did pretty well. And I don't think he raised or lowered his draft stock. I think he's still around where they would have projected him to be. But I mean, I think JJ just, I've watched that dude. He's been committed to Michigan, and I've been watching highlights of him since he was a sophomore in high school. So it would be just super exciting for me personally to bring in JJ to Minnesota and get to see him grow his career in the NFL. Who knows if it works or not. You have to take a risk. If you're Kwesi, that's the whole part of being an NFL GM. You take risks, and you take a risk. It doesn't work out. Well, you're probably going to get fired, but it's a risk you kind of have to take.
Yeah. And we've seen the draft stock on him. It's been interesting, we could say, because there are some fans that say if the Vikings got him in the top 5, it would be a wonderful pick. And there are some people that just bawl their eyes out even seeing his name in the first round connected to the Vikings. So if it was up to you, what do you think would be a reach? Where is, like, if you had to estimate, what would be a good, like, what do you see what I'm saying? It's like, what to you makes sense? Because you'd be no better than I would, since you watched a lot of him and I haven't.
I think at this point, if he's there at 11, I think it's a no-brainer. You draft him. Now, maybe trading into the top 5 could be, it's a little more risk. And I'm not saying I'm not opposed to it, but the top 5 would be a bigger risk rather than stick and picking. So, I mean, I think anywhere, maybe 5 would be a reach, but at the same time, you're going to need a quarterback, and that's frankly the situation you're in. And I think while the top 5 would be a reach, it's still a possibility. And I think anything below that is reasonable at this point. And, there's been some suggestions that, maybe it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and it's, Williams, May, Daniels, and then JJ McCarthy. And while that could be a little bit of a reach for him, I mean, if it works out, it's not a reach. Patrick Mahomes was considered a reach at one point, Now people are saying that's the smartest pick in NFL history, right?
Yeah. And I was trying to think where I was going, but I completely forgot what I was going to say. It was something relating to that. Oh yeah. It was like, I think it was Matt. I don't know for sure, but I think it was Matt that just kind of said that, like, or maybe it was Sam Z. I don't know. Someone said they just don't like even just the idea of JJ McCarthy at like 11 or trading up or anything. To them, that seems horrible. To me, I don't care. I think that whatever the Vikings do, I'm going to support them because they have scouts. They have people that know a lot more than we as fans do. They have done all the homework in the world on whoever they designate to be their guy, whether it's JJ McCarthy or somebody else. They have full belief in them. And so no matter what happens on draft night, I'm going to have full belief that they made the right choice because they know a lot more than we do. So even if the Vikings trade up to 5, say, and take JJ McCarthy, I'm still going to stand up and clap for that because they know what they're doing and I don't. So I'm going to put my belief in this front office that they know what they're doing. And no matter what, I'm not going to get mad about it if it's something like that.
Yeah. And, the Vikings are hammering quarterback work, obviously, right now. They're doing all the homework on it. They did it last year. They were ready to trade up for Anthony Richardson, it sounded like. But like this year especially, and now after your franchise guy just walked in free agency, you're going to be doing a lot of that homework and looking at all these top guys, and not just the top guys, but you're going to be looking at everybody. And, now I think it's in a situation where there's a pretty high possibility that they're going to go quarterback in the first round, barring some crazy trade like Josh Allen to Minnesota, which is not going to happen. But, a crazy trade like that, I think, you're pretty much putting your future on whoever you draft and at quarterback in this draft. And like I said, it makes you nervous, but it makes you excited too. And, whoever the Vikings draft in that, it could be, maybe it's McCarthy, maybe it's Bo Nix, maybe it's Michael Penix, who knows? But, this fan base, I think we just need to rally around whoever we draft. And, you can dislike him. You can say whatever you want about whoever they draft, but, let's get behind them. Let's give them a chance.
Yeah, no matter what they do, I'm going to stand by the decision and I'm going to support it. And even if it doesn't work out, I'm still going to look back and say, I would have done the same thing again. I would have still been willing to take the risk, even if it doesn't work. And I'm always going to feel that same way, I think. So we're probably going to have a lot more discussions about that whenever we film next or whatever, but we can probably start to move on into some other things because the Vikings did a lot of other things today too. Including their big name this morning was they signed edge rusher from the Houston Texans, Jonathan. I believe I heard Greenard was the pronunciation.
Greenard, yeah, Greenard, I think
that was what I heard. Obviously the instinct would be to say Greenard or Greenard or whatever. But yeah, I was gonna say this morning I heard it was Greenard, so that's what I'm gonna go with. And it looked like I think he was a second or third round.
He was a third round pick in 2020.
And he played pretty good, but not necessarily like knock your socks off in his first couple years. But last year, I think if I remember, he had like 12 and a half sacks and just played very well. And he's only, I think, probably 25, 26. Yeah.
Yeah, he's 26
in that range.
And, you know, he's not Danielle Hunter, obviously. And Danielle remains unsigned, but it sounds unlikely that, you know, the Vikings are going to bring him back at this point. But, you know, if all else fails, you have Greenard to hold down that one side. But I mean, you know, Vikings fans, you can't just get content with that. I mean, you need guys you can rotate. And they obviously signed another guy in Van Ginkel from Miami who can also is a pass rusher. But I think Greenard, you know, 26 for, what was it, 4 years, 3 years?
It was, let's look here.
But anyway, I thought it was a great contract. I mean, I thought Quase, that was a great signing. You know, people were I was looking at free agency previews left and right, and it seemed like most people were pretty content that they really liked Greenard. I didn't watch him a ton, but from what I saw, he looks like a phenomenal guy. And, you know, you see the vision of this team. They're just getting younger. They're getting younger. They're getting rid of the Spielman contracts. They're cutting all these older guys. And they're trying to get younger and really kind of not necessarily rebuild, but bring in these younger guys that can hopefully carry this defense for a long time.
Yeah, the contract was 4 years, $76 million. So I think that equates to 19 a year, if I remember right.
Yeah.
And then Christian Wilkins signed with the Raiders, but that was like 20 something. Yeah.
Wilkins,
so I'll say I like Christian Wilkins on paper, but after seeing that contract and then comparing it to this, I like that they did this and not Wilkins. That's what.
And there's still D tackles out there, DJ Reader, Taylor Tart, guys like that are obvious can be options for the Vikings. I wouldn't be surprised if they sign him or they bring in a D tackle. And even, you know, maybe in the draft, I mean, you go get one of these guys in the second round or whatever. And I think you still need an interior guy because Harrison Phillips is more of a run stopper, but Vikings had the worst interior pass rush win rate in the league last year. So I'd like to see him bring in a guy that can rush the passer a little bit too. So
yeah,
I think that's still an open position and need.
I was just going to say, I like this signing a lot. It probably does signal the end of Danielle Hunter. He hasn't signed yet. I thought he would have signed like right away today. That just felt like a Danielle Hunter thing.
And maybe that ups the possibility of him coming back. Who knows?
It could, but I think they're going to move on. And personally, I like their decision to get Greenard, like we said, because Danielle is going to command probably on the higher end of the 20 millions. I'd say he could still get, because I mean
he's going to get paid.
He's gonna get big money because he's 29 years old. Like we just said, Greenard's 26. So you're getting younger, which is wonderful and cheaper too. So just to me, it just seems like a good deal. So that's kind of that. We'll see how that goes. They also signed Andrew Van Ginkel, one of the best names in the NFL. Also, some of the best hair in the NFL.
Oh my gosh!
Goes up to
Alex Anzalone. Just got that flow.
So Andrew Van Ginkel, we'll pull up some stats. I believe it was a 2-year deal. I think it was around 19 or 20, so it was about 10 a year. And yeah, he was a 5th round selection in 2019. He played college football at South Dakota, then he transferred to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
Let's look at some stats on him. Man, wonderful hair on his ESPN page. He's had 17 sacks in his career. He spent all 5 seasons, 5 years with the Miami Dolphins. Last season, I think, was kind of his most productive season, it seems like. He had 42 tackles last year, played 17 games. Also, I should say one thing about Greenard. I don't know if it's injuries or what it is. So far in his career, he's played 13, 8, and 15 games. So that could...
Hold on. We got some breaking news for you.
Holding.
New England Patriots have signed Jacoby Brissett.
Oh, another quarterback off the board for the Vikings. Sam Darnold's still there, though.
Yep, Darnold's still there. Jimmy G's still around, so who knows?
Yeah. So, I mean, Brissett, I feel like Brissett's been around forever. I've probably looked it up every week.
He was I think he got drafted around the same time Jimmy G did, because he was on the Patriots initially too, and he was like their
only
third
31
quarterback and just worked his way up. And he's been a high end QB2, low end QB1 for his entire career.
He was a second round pick in 2016 by the Pats. So did they have him and Garoppolo at the same time?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like we just said, Garoppolo was a second round pick. So
I thought Brissett was like a 4th or 5th round pick, but I guess not.
Interesting one that is.
Yeah.
So Brissett off the board. I was just going to say about Greenard, he's played 13, 8, and 15 games. So I don't know if that's because of injuries or what it is. Danielle Hunter's had injury problems for who knows for how long now.
I think he did. I think Greenard was injured he missed a couple of games due to injury.
So still a great signing by the Vikings, but we do have to at least we do have to keep that in mind, we'll say. And for Van Ginkel, last year he had 6 sacks in his career over 5 years. He's had 17. I think he had a pick 6 last year, if I remember hearing that correctly. He's had 2 career interceptions, 1 interception return for a touchdown. It's a 33-yard pick 6, 8 passes deflected last year. And I mean, again, he's an outside linebacker, so that's pretty good for a rusher. That's not an inside linebacker. So good signing. Good signing, and it's not a break the bank deal. I think he
ended up getting like $10 million less from the Vikings too than he was projected to get. So Kwesi made a good signing with that one, and he's young. And
we'll see if he's on Spotrac because they have a market value calculation.
I know what you're talking about.
Have one for him.
Yeah,
I was hoping they'd have one.
Brad Spielberger of PFF is a really good guy to look at contract predictions. He seems to get most of them right somehow, but he's the guy that I kind of look at and ended up getting a steal, a couple of them.
So then the third signing the Vikings made today was former Minnesotan and former Gopher, Blake Cashman. He's an inside linebacker. He played for the Gophers. He's from Eden Prairie.
Yep.
And I mean, yeah, we can find some stuff about him, but from what I know, he's been pretty good, especially this past year. He was pretty good.
With the Texans, he had a phenomenal season, and one of my favorite analysts is a Texans fan, and he just says nothing but good things about him. So this was honestly, it might have been my most exciting signing of the day for me, just because, the Vikings need to replace an inside guy like that, and they probably need to sign 1 or 2 more interior linebackers. Now one of them could be Jordan Hicks and bringing him back. So we'll see. But I still think, 1 to 2 guys, rotate. Obviously him and Pace are going to be great together, I think. Cashman's still he's still pretty young too. So.
He's 27.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
He definitely still got some years in him.
Yeah. And maybe, I was just going to say, maybe this could help Brian Asamoah too. Maybe just have him take a step back and bring him in as a package kind of a guy. Yeah. Because, I mean, they tried him as a starter last year and it didn't really work kind of like they thought and whatever. Yeah. But maybe they just need that.
Yeah. Cashman led the Texans in tackles, 106, 2 sacks, 9 TFLs, 1 interception, fumble recovery. So solid stats across the board for him. But he was one of those later round picks. He was a 5th round pick, and then I think he was to the Jets, and then ended up not playing.
It was
playing a ton, and then he kind of worked his way up in Houston, and then last year was one of his really first year starting.
So yeah, that's that. It is a 3-year, $25.5 million deal. So that'd be what, 25. 8 and some change million per year. So pretty good deal right there. Jordan Hicks is a free agent now. He was the Vikings' other starting linebacker for the most part. He's 31 years old now, and he wasn't bad last year, I'd say. And 2 years ago, he was not very good, but also nobody in that defense under Donatel was also very good. So
defense was a disaster.
Wasn't just him. And last year he took a pay cut, and then he did play better, but still good choice by the Vikings to get cheaper at least. So
but I mean, I think his projected contract is 1 year, $4 million at this point. And, honestly, I wouldn't be opposed to that. So we'll see what happens with Hicks. Maybe he wants to go somewhere else, but he's one of those guys that I feel like might not get signed for a little while.
Last season, it still shows his latest deal on Spotrac. Last year he played He was $5 million against the cap.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's really all that's valuable, I guess, within his contract is his number against the cap. So good deal there for Blake Cashman. And yeah, in his career, he's had one interception. It was last year. He had one interception, 2 yards, 1 interception, 2-yard return. So better than a 0-yard return. So good for him. Also, another, I guess, interesting thing. We talked a little about this, but as we've seen players come off the board today, there's been a little bit of a question mark with the Vikings. Why didn't they sign a running back? And I'll start by saying the fact that they didn't sign there was a lot of running backs in the market. It was just a super running back heavy market this year, surprisingly, which kind of hasn't happened in a while. I will say I honestly kind of like the Vikings' decision not to sign a running back yet. Obviously I want them to sign someone competent, but like some dudes were going off for like 12 million per year, and I'm personally out on someone in the 10 to 12 million range. Yeah. To me, that's a bit much. And maybe they're going to draft someone again, like a Ty Chandler-esque player. Either way, they're going to want more of a veteran in the backfield. Yeah. But I will say I don't hate their decision to not sign a top tier running back. Like the Austin Eckler deal, I'll say was better, but I didn't see the specifics either on the Josh Jacobs, so I don't know how much they're paying him.
Yeah.
But on one of those upper echelon, on one of those top running backs, like Saquon, everyone wanted Saquon, but I was out on Saquon. That was too much for me. But that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah. Just with the running back market, and you can get a competent run game from, a mid-tier running back. But yeah, I mean, we've seen guys, that are day 3 picks come in and have success in their rookie years, and maybe that could be an avenue the Vikings are looking to go. You've seen that with Pacheco and a few other dudes across the league. So, you could go that route. Maybe you throw a little trade at somebody. You trade a day 3 pick for a guy or something like that. So, obviously the running back remains a position in need, because I don't think you just roll in with Ty Chandler as your starter. But that's kind of that's really your only, outside of quarterback, obviously now, but hopefully that Reisner's back. So, I mean, hopefully that just means you need a running back.
So we talked a little about Saquon. Would you say you were in on Saquon or not necessarily?
I was kind of torn on Saquon. I think there's good and bad. Obviously he's had some injury problems, but he is a very good running back, and I'm not going to take that away from him. But I was kind of waiting to see the deal he got, and it sounds like he got a pretty significant deal. And I don't think Kwesi and KOC are really looking to sign a super expensive running back.
It was 3 years, just a shade under 38 million. So that'd be a little bit over 12 million per year. Yeah. He's 27. He was, I think, the 2nd overall pick a few years back, and
just a stud in college too.
He's been good. Injuries hampered him a couple of years. He had issues with that, and then he was stuck with the Giants, and that was its own thing because they signed Daniel Jones to that big contract, which is a horrible deal. And I remember when it happened and they signed him to a $40 million deal, I said that is literally going to be the reincarnation of Kirk Cousins to their franchise, is going to be signing Daniel Jones to a $40 million contract. If you think about it, Daniel Jones, to me, honestly does feel like a reincarnation of Kirk Cousins in a way. There's just something about him that just feels like another Kirk Cousins.
I think he's worse than Kirk Cousins, but
he is. But he's the water.
That playoff win for Daniel Jones really got him that contract. So we can thank Ed Donatel for that or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah. So yeah, they'll look to sign probably a vet running back. They're not just gonna have Ty Chandler and running back TBD in the draft.
Yeah,
rolling. Maybe they'll go for someone in like 3rd round, maybe, like if there's someone decent, like one of the higher level running backs on the board. I wouldn't be opposed to that necessarily either. I just have probably made my opinion known on here that I'm not for paying running backs big money, and they didn't do that today, so I applaud them for doing that.
I'm not either.
I was just gonna say, just like I applaud them for getting rid of Delvin Cook and now Madison. Madison wasn't even really big money, but the Cook one was. So
I just think this team needs a competent running back. I mean, we don't need a super good run game when we have KOC who can, and hopefully a quarterback who's going to be able to kind of throw it around the yard. But
yeah, they had a bad run game. I think some of it did have to do with blocking too, because Reisner's from what I know, Reisner has been good in his career. He's been really good in pass blocking, but he's been pretty bad in run blocking. That's just
Run
kind of how he's
blocking
been.
is all right. I mean, this is definitely a better offensive line than Cook ran behind for a lot of his career, but in Minnesota. But the run game simply has to improve at least a little bit. I mean, you need at least a middle of the road run game, and obviously this isn't a team that relies on their run game, but hopefully, all these rookie quarterbacks that supposedly are getting drafted are going to be guys that have some mobility. So that should hopefully improve the run game a little bit too.
Yeah, if they sign a running back, obviously I want them to sign a decent level running back, but just if they sign a running back, I'm not just going to go out here and say the running game is odd. I mean, it'll be a little bit better, but it's not fixed, because I think it's more than just the running back. Blocking, like we just kind of said, blocking has been kind of a problem last year. Some of it, I think, also had to do with Kevin O'Connell and how Kevin O'Connell was too quick to abandon the run game. It didn't go well, and then he just only passed it and then never did. He also had no screen game, so that was kind of a problem also. So not all that goes on him, and not all that goes on the running back, and not all that goes on blocking, but some of it is on all those. Also, ESPN said that the Seahawks are closing in on a deal with Leonard Williams.
Yep. They're paying him a lot too.
The ESPN notification doesn't say how much it is, so
Shefty's been. Hold on.
Let's see what else we got. The Vikings have shown interest, so take what you want, but they've shown interest. The Vikings have shown interest in Sam Darnold and Jameis Winston, so just people can take what they want from that.
They've been They've been showing interest in Darnold for a while now.
I don't know if I don't think I'd cry about Jameis Winston either. I mean, he's had some bad times in his career, but he's also had some decent times too.
He is kind of like Nick Mullins, though. Just he might throw 5 touchdowns in a game, but 5 interceptions.
Didn't he lead the league the one year in passing like touchdowns pretty much? Just threw the ball. That's all he did.
He did that again. He came in against the Vikings when Derek Carr got hurt too. Remember?
Oh yeah.
He had like some 2 crazy touchdown drives, then he threw like a game-losing interception, if I remember correctly. So that's kind of the Jameis Winston experience for you. But I mean, I won't be opposed to it as a bridge.
Some Viking fans, I just think that what's going to happen, this isn't speaking for all, but the Vikings are going to sign a guy like Sam Darnold or Jameis Winston, and then they're going to cry about it. But it's not like they're going to just move on from Kirk Cousins and now sign Tom Brady. That's not how it works. We're going to transition to someone new. Jameis Winston is not going to be the starting quarterback for the next 5 years.
No.
He will be for 8 games, 1 year, not more than
whoever they bring in is, unless barring them catching an absolute heater and just, playing crazy good football, they're not going to be here longer. They're not going to start longer than a year.
So it's nothing to fear necessarily, because they will not be the long-term solution. They are just the temporary Band-Aid solution for the long-term solution. So that's kind of that. So we talked about all that. Is there anything really else? Let me think. What other major things happened today? Well, obviously, we kind of talked about Danielle hasn't come off the board yet. He probably will soon. So we'll see where he goes. And lots of running backs signed today. I saw that DeAndre Swift went to the Bears. That
was like the first signing.
That was like right away, 11 or whatever it was. I don't know if that's actually when it was, but pretty much. Also, I heard something today that from when the tampering window started at 11, the Vikings and the Falcons and Kirk were on the phone for like 2 hours, probably to get the deal figured out. But I mean, they'd obviously been in dialogue before that, because that's how the NFL is, and nothing the NFL can do about it. So, but just thought that was kind of funny. He almost in a way, didn't even give the Vikings a chance, if that's true. Well, he did. He had a long time to give them a chance, and they didn't do it, which is good. But that's kind of that, I guess. Unless there's, I don't know how much else there is. Maybe we'll have another episode if something major happens. Vikings sign a major player. Maybe we'll do something tomorrow or one of the coming days again, or if something weird happens, because you never know, that could happen. Kirk could change his mind. Probably not, but he could. That happened with who was it? I think last year. I'm trying to think who it was. I think it was edge rusher. Why can't I think of his name? He agreed. I was just thinking about this earlier. I think it was the Raiders and or Ravens, and God, who was it? Why can't I think of his name? I'm gonna figure it out. He agreed to a deal with one team and then backed out before signing the contract to go somewhere else. I'm trying to think, who was it? I feel like that happened with didn't that happen with someone else with the Vikings though too? The Vikings.
It happened to Barr. Barr was going to sign
had that with the
Jets, and he came back.
That was its thing. Maybe it was. Who am I thinking of? It was a defensive tackle they had it with. The Vikings had that with.
Breaking news. Former Vikings linebacker Jordan Hicks has signed a 2-year, $8 million deal with the Browns.
Oh, so
another
bye to Jordan Hicks too.
We're going to be looking to probably bring in another guy then. Probably a depth piece. No one too crazy, but yeah. So
yeah, it was. Gosh, why can't I think of it? He played for the Cardinals too. I swear, I think he
Chandler
did play.
Jones.
Chandler Jones, yeah, it was Chandler Jones. Let me look back. I swear that happened. Chandler Jones agreed to a deal somewhere, but then he backed out before he signed it, and then went somewhere else. And I think that was last year that happened. It was something like that. Maybe I could be wrong here, but I feel like that happened. Chandler Jones contract. Why do I feel like that happened? But I could be wrong. Maybe there's Chandler Jones Vikings team. I don't know if that was
I do remember that.
But
I don't think it was ever. I don't know if it was ever legit, but
yeah, I just remember them being connected to each other at least. And yeah, so that's kind of that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's kind of it for our episode here today. Good hour to talk through the moves, what could happen in the future, and we'll see how this upcoming week goes. Again, we'll be back for sure Wednesday, for sure by Thursday. Wednesday, Thursday, we'll see. Depends when people are around and whatnot, of course. Maybe we'll be back even before then tomorrow if something groundbreaking happens. But we'll for sure be back in the coming days, and hopefully we'll have more people on and we can really break all this down. See other people's thoughts, maybe see Matt Larson cry on camera. He texted me earlier. I asked him, are you going to be on the podcast? And he said he's too emotional to be on because of Kirk Cousins. So hopefully he'll be better by Wednesday, Thursday, whatever day we're back here next. So we'll just have to see. Also, I can show you this here. We can look at the spreadsheet. A couple things kind of happened. Oops, I have to refresh the page here. There we go. So I guess here's the roster. It might not be completely updated. It's pretty much updated, I think. It has their 3 signings. Oh, also for the Vikings, re-signed backup tackle David Quessenberry and Blake Brandel. I know that's absolutely breaking Vikings news, everybody, but we should note that did happen as well.
And Quessenberry and those are both solid depth pieces. The Vikings offensive line has, mostly remained the same under Kwesi and KOC, which I'm not really opposed to. I feel like this offensive line's just been getting better and better.
The Quessenberry deal, I think I saw it was like 1 year, $2 million, which like to me that's
for a pretty good backup tackle. Like he's a guy who if he has to start a couple games, I'm not worried about it.
He's got experience starting, so yeah. Also, this is touching a little bit back on quarterback, but this made me think of it. This is why I wouldn't be mad about Zach Wilson or Sam Darnold, even though they haven't been good. They have started games in their career.
Yeah,
it's not like they've played 3 games and that's it. Kind of like Trey Lance. Trey Lance would be, I think, more of a risk than those guys would be because you know what you're getting out of them. Trey Lance, you don't know. But I was going to say that earlier, and I kind of forgot. And Blake Brandel, former tackle, move guard, and yeah, just kind of a guy. So that's kind of how that is. So we can see there, Greenard, Van Ginkel there. And yeah, so here's the list of to-be free agents. It's a little different now. I saw a report last week that KJ Osborne probably won't come back, even though everyone saw that coming. So It's not breaking by any means. Dalton Reisner, I've seen also has interest in coming back to the Vikings, but we'll see how they work that out. Let's see. Anyone else that major on here? Danielle Hunter, obviously. Oh, Davenport's off the board. He got signed by the Lions a little bit ago, so no more Davenport. And then Jordan Hicks right here too. He just got signed by you said the Browns, so
Browns.
No more of that. And there's kind of the rest of their list. So we'll see what they do in the coming days. I was gonna go. Again, here's our prospect visits. Hasn't changed since the last episode, so it's the same guys, but all the quarterbacks they've talked to, unsurprisingly, they're making their rounds. A little surprised I didn't talk to Bo Nix, though, but maybe they probably will eventually.
Yeah, they probably will.
They'll probably have a top 30 visit with him, but yeah, all those dudes they've talked to probably won't get Caleb Williams, but anyone else is in play, we'll say. Predictions, a couple things have come off the board. I said Baker would re-sign with the Bucs and it'd be at least $27 million average. It was $33 million, and he did re-sign. I also said in Kirk's next contract, 2025 would be fully guaranteed, and it is. Crazy that the Falcons are willing to fully guarantee his second year.
They really need a quarterback.
They were willing to go big or go home. So, yeah. Sam Z said exactly one of Danielle, JJ, or Kirko wouldn't come back. Well, Kirko isn't, so probably going to be red because of Danielle, but you never know. I guess we'll never know. Big Lou had a quarterback one. Exactly 2 of the starting 4 won't be back. Well, Dobbs is a free agent, so nothing happens till he signs somewhere, really, or they enter the season.
They still have Mullins and Hall on their roster, too. So.
And then Matt said Justin Fields would be the Pittsburgh starter, and it's pretty safe to say that won't happen with Russ being there. And then he said Russ would be a Viking, and he's not. Also, throwback to when he said J.J. McCarthy would be a second-round pick in the draft.
Yeah, that's not happening.
And then you had a few come off, too. You said Edina would not win the state hockey tournament. Well, they did. I will admit, I had never gotten into the state hockey tournament until this year. I did, and it was a good time. It was a good time getting into it. I will do that in future years, I bet now. That will be I'll enjoy watching it. You also said Kirk would be the Vikings quarterback next year, and his contract would be under $40 million total per year, and it's 45. So
he got more than I was expecting from even the Falcons.
You also said they would sign either Russ, Jacoby, or Darnold. Well, Jacoby's off the board and Russ is off the board, but they could still sign Darnold. So we'll see. You never know. And yeah, that's it. We'll look over here. The sample sizes are super small, so don't really trust anything on here. I'm 2 for 2, so I'm at 100 for now. Sam Z is 0 for 1. He's had nothing come off, but he mentioned the forbidden name last week. Big Lou's had nothing come off the board, so he's not even technically on the board. Matt's 0 for 2, and you are 0 for 4. So we'll see how it shakes out the rest of the season. So that's that. Again, good episode today. Good chat about where do they stand and where will they go in the future. So I also think their signing of Jonathan Greenard, it doesn't make it a 0 chance, but I think it lessens the likelihood that they would sign or that they would draft a quarterback in the first round.
Yeah.
I think, or not quarterback, edge rusher, I meant.
Edge, yeah.
But it just, the stars just add up for them to to draft a quarterback. I mean, that's not saying that they won't do an edge rusher, but that signing makes it less probable that would happen. So, yeah. And we'll just have to see where this team goes. It's going to be a fun time. Fun next few days. Fun
next
years,
month,
honestly.
month and a half.
Oh yeah,
the draft.
Good old,
a little bit, but
good old times here. So that does it for this episode. We will see you guys maybe tomorrow, maybe Wednesday for sure. We'll see you by Thursday. So we'll just see how it goes. Otherwise, that does it. Have a good night, everybody. Peace out, and as always, SKOL Vikings. We will see you guys in the coming days for more Vikings content. SKOL Vikings.